Hey friend, Graham here from recordingrevolution.com. Welcome back to my mixing series where we're mixing a song together. That's right, over 6 videos, we are going to mix the exact same song together. So you can download the stems, you can download the tracks that I'm mixing here in this video series and mix along with me as I break down my mixing process and give you some tracks to practice on. If you want to download the stems to this song, the song is called Southern Road by the Lack Family, super talented family band. And you can download those stems along with a mixing checklist of all these steps all put together in a simple PDF for you. Just go to mixingchecklist.com and get downloading. In today's video, we're going to do step 2, which is mix bus processing. So in the last video, if you haven't watched it, go check it out. We covered the importance of gain staging and the static mix. 2 boring things that most people skip, but guess what? Most people's mixes don't sound good, so don't skip those steps. We've done a really good job of creating a balance. I think it's a good balance. And so now I'm going to continue this process and start bringing in some plugins, but not where you think. I'm not a fan of dragging in plugins on individual tracks right away. I used to long time ago. But you know what? I started to figure out that if you start to put a couple of plugins on your master fader or your mix bus, same thing, this final track that everything dumps into, you can do a little bit of processing here. And everything you do here actually affects everything that goes into it, of course, right? If you put an EQ on your mix bus or your master fader, it's applying that EQ to everything that goes through it, which can be good or bad. You can enhance your mix here or you can ruin it. So we have to tread carefully. I'm not going to tell you don't do this because you might screw it up. I want to give you the tips and tricks that are really going to help you. And this will help you if you learn one word, and that is subtle. Be subtle here. You're always going to want to do more here, but trust me, a little goes a long way because a 1 dB boost on the master fader is 1 dB on every single track, so that can be 20 dB basically equivalent of sound change. And that's not what you want here. You want to do just little bits, right? That's enough is basically what I'm saying. 1 dB is enough. So here we go. Here's a little snippet of where we are in the song so you know what we're working with. Yeah, I'm even just touching the balance here. Cool, so tweaking the balance there. So now I'm gonna bring in a little bit of processing on the master fader. Here's what I like to do. I like to get a quick win. I like to be confident about myself. So what I'm gonna do is try to get something that will quickly make the mix sound a little bit better so I feel confident early on and feel like it's going well, because a confident mixer mixes better. So what I'm gonna do is grab an EQ. I like to start with EQ on the master fader. And just so you know, in this entire series, I'm going to be using nothing but the stock plugins in Pro Tools. And you should follow along with whatever plugins you prefer. But if you only have the included plugins, guess what? They're great sounding plugins that you happen to already own. So no need to grab any third-party plugins. And what I'm going to do here in the EQ is try to listen for the frequencies that I really want to clean up. I want to clear out any mud. I feel like this song sounds really warm, and I like that. I don't want to get rid of the warmth, but with the warmth comes a little bit of muddiness, and I want to clear it up a little bit. I want to bring out the vocal a little bit, maybe the drums a little more clarity in the mix as well. So I like to do a couple of things, and I'm going to just mess around with this EQ and then show you what I ended up doing. So let's take a listen here. All right, so I've done 2 little cuts and 2 little boosts. And what I've got is I'm listening for the low mid frequencies. Looks like I cut out a little bit at 188 and a little bit at 560. So low mid range. This one sounded kind of like woofy and muddy. This one at 560 sounded a little wonky, whatever that word means to you. It means something to me. So I was kind of just getting rid of some of those frequencies, because if you cut first, you free up headroom and the chance to hear what else is in the mix that might be covered up by those muddy frequencies. So I start with a couple cuts. And then I wanted to hear a little bit more presence in the vocals, so I just kind of swept around. And you notice what I do, I like boost, and then I kind of move around till I can hear what's happening at those frequencies. It's a little extreme, but it allows me to hear what's happening. So I felt like the vocals were coming through better in the 2K range, and I just kind of swung from 2K up to 3K, and I settled somewhere in the middle at 2.6. A little bit of a boost there for the vocals. And then I wanted just a little bit more top end. The cymbals, the overall clarity of some of the vocals have a little bit of a shelf boost at 6.8. Notice that they're all under 2 dB. This might be on the extreme. 1 to 1.5 is a good range, but 2 dB is probably the most I'll do in terms of boosts or cuts on a master fader. And either way, whenever you're done looking at this, you want to make sure that the output is not getting louder or quieter than the input, so that you're actually not making the mix louder or quieter, you're just changing the tone. So what I'm going to do is bypass the EQ, and you can hear what this is doing. And this is going to be subtle, but listen on good speakers or headphones and see if you can pay attention to what difference it is making. Hear how it opens up? When you take it away, it seems like it gets a little muddled and muffled, as if like you put a blanket over the mix. And then when you turn the EQ back on, it seems to just have a little bit more clarity, a little bit more pop. And this is very subtle. So that's good for me. That's a little bit of a win. I already am making the mix better. And then the other thing I tend to do on the mix bus is compression. I'm going to grab the stock compressor here. Why compress? Because this is where you really can go wrong. With EQ, you can overboost and overcut on the mix bus. With compression, you can ruin all the dynamics of your mix. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to squash my mix. I'm not trying to make the mix louder here. This is not a limiter. All I'm trying to do is squeeze it just a little bit to reduce the dynamics just a little bit, so I can bring up a little bit of urgency in things like the kick drum and the snare drum and sometimes the guitars. So the trick here on the mix bus is to do slow attack, like 10 milliseconds or slower, fast release, as fast as you can. 2-to-1 ratio generally is good, so it's kind of gentle. And then the key is to work on the threshold, because if the threshold's all the way up, it's not going to do any compression. So what I'm going to do is dial the threshold down while we listen to the rockin' part of the mix, and I'm going to look here at the GR meter, gain reduction. And my only goal here is to just make sure that I'm not doing too much reduction of gain. So I'm going to look at just like -1 to -3 max on the loudest peaks, which are probably kick and snare. If I'm doing any more than that, I'm in danger of over squashing the mix. But again, it's not really about the meter as much as it's about how it sounds. So we'll take a listen. Let's see what happens. I wonder who I could be if I face the side of the road. I wonder who I'd become if I let my dreams undone. I wonder who I could be if I face the side of the road. I wonder who I'd become if I let my dreams undone. Good, so just in a little bit of reduction, you can see the output is a little quieter than the input. And so what we want to do then is make up some of that gain. I might do like 1 dB makeup gain to bring up a little bit of the volume of what we've turned down now. So now I'm going to make sure that it's about the same volume in and out of the compressor. I wonder who I could be if I face the side of the road. I wonder who I'd become if I let my dreams undone. So close. That's pretty much in the sweet spot for me. Some peaks, the loud peaks are going to be about the same. The average volume might come up a little bit, but I'm going to bypass it, turn it back on, bypass it. Listen for the kick drum. You might notice it more there.
I wonder who I could be if I face the side of the road. I wonder who I'd become if I let my dreams undone. I wonder who I could be if I face the side of the road. I wonder who I'd become if I let my dreams undone.
I'm going to turn it down just to 0.8, let's say. So it's creating a little bit more pump, a little bit more urgency on the kick drum, snare drum, and the overall excitement of the mix. Again, it's really subtle. If you're having a hard time hearing the difference, welcome to the club. I'm trying to do that on purpose because I don't want to kill my mix on the mix bus. Final thing before we wrap up today, what I want to do is then bypass them both together so you can now hear the subtle differences we made on the 4 EQ moves, remember, which were these 2 cuts, 2 boosts, and then the subtle compression. Again, slow attack, which allows the transients to still come through. Fast release, which allows the compressor to reset quickly so it's not squashing things or holding them down. Let's see what happens to the mix when you get rid of both of them and see if we can notice a more of a difference.
I wonder who I could be if I face the side of the road. I wonder who I'd become if I let my dreams undone. I wonder who I could be if I face the side of the road. I wonder who I'd become if I let my dreams undone.
Right? A little more exciting, a little more clarity, a little bit more energy. It's better, and that's all I'm trying to do here is subtly enhance my mix, clean it up just a little bit, do some of the heavy lifting here in something I call top-down mixing because I'm doing it on the top layer. All of this work trickles down and affects everything below it. And so that way, when I get down to the individual drums or the individual vocals or the individual piano, there'll be a little bit less work and less processing I'll have to do because the mix is already coming together. This is where I start in step 2, which is mix bus processing. Hope that gives you an idea. You can always add other plugins here like tape saturation or console emulation. If you have anything like that, can really enhance the vibe, the tone, add warmth to the whole mix just with one little plugin on the master fader. It's a nice idea to consider that here. Now, before you go, because we're going to do more mixing in the next video, we're going to be jumping down into the individual tracks, working on some EQ in the next video. But before you go, make sure you download these stems, the same tracks I'm mixing on. You can get these exact same WAV files, pull them into your software of choice and mix along with us, as well as get my mixing checklist, which is a simple PDF where I put all of these steps plus some bonus tips in one simple, easy to print out or keep on your phone guide. So when you mix, you know exactly what to do first, second, third, or fourth, because the order that you mix in really does affect how your mix turns out. So you can get that mixing checklist and the stems that I'm mixing all at mixingchecklist.com. The link's here in the description box and in the video. Download the PDF and the stems, mix along with me. I'd love to hear your feedback. And again, if you like the music, go and support the band. TheLackFamily.com is where they're at. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you on the next video.